Hello everyone. Today our topic is preliminary investigation. So let's dissect this topic in complete depth. Okay, let's start with the definition of preliminary investigation. Preliminary investigation is an inquiry or a proceeding, the purpose of which is to determine whether there is sufficient ground to engender a well-founded belief that a crime has been committed, and the respondent is probably guilty thereof and should be held for trial. What is a preliminary investigation? An investigation is what occurs right after a potential crime has been reported to law enforcement. A preliminary investigation is the initial response to any report of criminal activity, including both accidental and intentional. It is a vital part of the total investigation process and must be performed to determine if there is a need for a full investigation, formal accusation, and trial. A preliminary investigation is required before an offense can be filed in court. The main purpose of a preliminary investigation is to determine whether a crime has been committed. If it is determined that a crime has been committed, law enforcement will collect evidence to determine who committed the crime. If the offender is present, law enforcement will obtain the offender and submit the preliminary report. Steps of a preliminary investigation. Law enforcement conducts an investigation step by step to ensure accurate information is included in the preliminary report. A thorough and detailed preliminary report is vital to the entire investigation process because it can help to solve a crime. The preliminary investigation steps include the following. The first step in a preliminary investigation is to assess the crime scene for any injured persons. Responding law enforcement should attend to the injured parties and call for emergency medical help. While waiting for paramedics to arrive on the scene, law enforcement should check vital signs and assess the injuries of each person involved. In certain cases, law enforcement can apply basic first aid while waiting for help to arrive. The second step is to observe the scene. During this step, law enforcement will take note of the positioning of the victim, items found at the crime scene, witnesses at the scene, and any unusual activity. The third step is to determine if a crime has occurred. If a crime has occurred, law enforcement will begin the enforcement action process, which includes pursuing the offender and making an arrest. If the offender has left the crime scene and cannot be obtained, additional officers will be alerted and informed with a description of the suspect. The fourth step is to secure the crime scene to ensure that all evidence is preserved. The crime scene is blocked off using barricades to prevent the public from tampering with any evidence. All evidence is photographed and documented carefully to ensure that it is not contaminated. The fifth step is to interview witnesses and gather witness reports. All witnesses of the crime should be interviewed. The final step of the preliminary investigation is to organize all of the information gathered into a detailed report. The preliminary report will be used during the post-crime formal investigation. Analysis of the preliminary investigation. Analysis of the preliminary investigation is vital to the entire investigation process and must be performed in a careful and thorough manner. Analysis of the preliminary investigation occurs right when responding law enforcement receives the call of a potential crime scene. As soon as law enforcement arrives on the scene, they begin to assess the situation by observing all surroundings and taking note of any unusual activity. Steps. Step 1. In a preliminary investigation, the officer must first attend to any injured parties and obtain proper care for them. This step includes checking vital signs, calling an ambulance and working with EMTs if necessary. Step 2. Next, the officer observes the scene. This observation includes the position of the victim, any items near the victim, and any unusual activities at the scene. Step 3. Next, the officer will make a determination that a crime was committed. Once this occurs, the officer will begin an enforcement action. An enforcement action includes pursuing an offender, making an arrest, or sending out an identifying description of the offender for other officers to utilize. Step 4. Furthermore, the officer will secure the crime scene, making sure that any evidence is preserved and no one tampers with anything at the scene. Step 5. Next, the officer will interview witnesses in order to obtain witness statements. Step 6. Finally, the officer compiles a report of his or her work. All of this information is used in the formal post-crime scene investigation. What is the importance of preliminary investigation? The preliminary investigation is important because it involves the gathering of facts and details that can help solve a crime. During the preliminary report, evidence is gathered, as well as statements from the victims and witnesses. The preliminary report can help to obtain the offender.